Hey everyone, welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Alyssa Ashe, and I'm so excited to bring you today's nightly news recap. And just double checking real quick. Hey everyone, welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Alyssa Ashe, and I'm so excited to bring you today's nightly news recap. Sorry if you're hearing any echoes there, just getting my screen set up right now, making sure everything's good. And I have a few exciting stories to share with you guys tonight. It's been so great seeing you guys get ready in the chat room. A lot of you are here. Swoosh for Trump, Martin Marbles, some of our moderators, Real Frank in Florida, and of course Guinevere and Carl Peterson are here, and the Millers, a regular sponsor. So thank you so much everyone for waiting, and I'm going to go through some different stories tonight. But remember, like I said last night and in previous nights, if you have anything that you want to share with me, maybe a story from the day that I may have missed, you can send it to my Twitter account at Alyssa RSBN. And I'm going to put that up for a second real quick so that you guys will be able to see it. And that is at Alyssa RSBN. So how is everyone doing tonight? I hope you are doing so well. And it's so great to have you guys here with me, excited for a fun night. We have a couple hours of news ahead of us, so stay tuned. And I'm switching it back real quick. Okay, so first, a big story that I want to share with you guys is President Trump actually promising farmers $12 billion in trade aid, and then some reactions that he got as well. And this was from today, and this information is from Politico, so thank you for that. So the agricultural secretary, Sonny Perdue, on Tuesday today unveiled a three-part $12 billion plan to ease the sting of retaliatory tariffs on U.S. farmers through a mix of payments, purchases, and trade promotion efforts. Now, the plan actually seeks to ensure that U.S. farmers and ranchers, a key constituency for President Trump and Republicans, don't bear the brunt of escalating trade fight as the administration pursues an aggressive course to rebalance America's trade relationships. So Trump's moves to slap tariffs on imports from some of America's largest foreign buyers have prompted retaliation against U.S. farm goods like pork, beef, soybeans, sorghum, and a range of fruits. So the administration's trade aid plan, first reported by Politico, is also a bid to shore up support among a slice of the rural electorate ahead of midterm elections. But the tariffs and subsequent gluts for various farm products have wreaked havoc, on farming economies. So Perdue said this is obviously a short-term solution that will give President Trump time to work on a long-term trade policy and deal to benefit agriculture as well as sectors of the American economy. And Perdue said that the amount is in line with the roughly $11 billion in negative effects that USDA has calculated agricultural producers have suffered as a result of illegal retaliatory tariffs imposed by China, Canada, Mexico, the EU, and other major companies. So Perdue, who, like I said, Sonny Perdue, he's the agricultural secretary, he said the amount is in line with the roughly $11 billion, and I told you guys that, but he also said the programs we're announcing today are a firm statement that other nations cannot bully our agricultural producers to force the United States to cave in. However, it is unclear whether the aid will cover many of the price losses that various agriculture sectors are experiencing. For instance, U.S. Meat Export Federation says the tariffs from Mexico, just one of those nations in the trade war, will lead to more than $835 million in annualized losses for the pork industry. And the aid also doesn't address other sectors of the economy that have been hurt by retaliatory tariffs by the U.S. largest trading partners, such as manufacturers, consumers, and other industries. And then Senator Tom Tillis, who is actually a Republican senator from North Carolina, said today it can't just be about agriculture. And he added that he's actually waiting for the administration to provide more information on how its plan affects other industries that also rely on trade. So in the first part of the aid plan, the government will provide direct payments to growers and producers of soybeans, sorghum, corn, wheat, cotton, pork, and dairy. And the second part, a food purchase and distribution program, would use authority under the USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service to purchase fruits, nuts, beef, pork, and dairy products from U.S. producers for redistribution to federal nutrition assistance programs. And the plan's third element would put resources toward finding new markets for U.S. farmers to sell their products abroad. So Perdue said that all of the programs are authorized under the Commodity Credit Corporation Charter Act, which is a Depression-era funding program that doesn't require approval from Congress. Okay, so I'm back. I apologize to everyone on YouTube and some of our other social media channels watching are going to be like, what are you talking about? But sometimes on YouTube, we do get censored, and there was a black screen that was up just now. So I apologize to everyone who was watching on YouTube, excuse me. And if that continues to happen, YouTube watchers, please watch us on Facebook and Twitter. You'll be able to see a clear stream without any black screens. So once again, I apologize for that. That is a YouTube issue. But stay tuned, and hopefully it will not happen again. Yes, so stay tuned. So like I said, the specifics of the aid plan will be subject to a federal rulemaking process, and the USDA is expected to make a determination around Labor Day as to when the aid will kick in. So President Trump actually said this week he's touring with Midwestern farm states like Missouri, Illinois, and Iowa, where he will likely get inundated with questions about his trade agenda. And just pausing real quick, there is another black screen on YouTube, which is very frustrating. So I'm going to type a quick message to my YouTube viewers. Just saying we apologize for the YouTube issue. Please check out our Facebook and Twitter streams. Okay, and we're back. Sorry about that. So the president is touring Midwestern farm states like Missouri, Illinois, and Iowa, where he'll likely get asked tons of questions about his trade agenda. So his interest in reassuring an anxious farm sector was evident on Monday when he gave a shout out to farmers during an event at the White House, which was the Made in America product event, while unveiling his new campaign style hats that say "Make Our Farmers Great Again," and they're really fun. They're actually John Deere green with yellow lettering on them. And President Trump said, "Make our farmers great again. That's what's happening," as he showed off one of the green hats with yellow lettering, a color scheme resembling, the one that's used, like I said, by the tractor maker John Deere. And President Trump said he just had the new hats made. And checking my Facebook comments over here. Yes, definitely glad you guys are watching on Facebook, because we are experiencing more black screens on YouTube. Okay, but we're good right now. Okay, so Senator Ben Sasse, he is a vocal critic of President Trump on trade, blasted the tariff aid as a way of giving farmers gold crutches, and warned that the current direction of U.S. trade policy could lead to economic circumstances similar to the Smoot-Hawley tariffs that have been partly blamed for straining the economy during the Great Depression. And he said in a statement, "America's farmers don't want to be paid to lose. They want to win by feeding the world. This administration's tariffs and bailouts aren't going to make America great again. They're just going to make it 1929 again." And other GOP members from farming states also spoke out strongly against the tariffs. So Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin actually said, "This is becoming more and more like a Soviet type of economy here. Commissars deciding who's going to be granted waivers, commissars in the administration figuring out how they're going to sprinkle around benefits. I'm very exasperated. This is serious." And we just got our first donation of the night, $19.99 from Little Lord Fauntleroy. Thank you so much for that. Who said Black Screen Fund. Thank you very much for that, Little Lord. We really hope that no more black screens come up tonight, Lord willing. Say your prayers that they will stop censoring us. It's very frustrating. And so, anyways, but thank you again, Little Lord. Really, really appreciate your donation and support. That'll definitely help us get to our next rally, which is actually next Tuesday in Tampa, Florida. We're so excited to go to that, and I believe we will have a crew of 5, so a full team, and it's going to be so much fun. And in case you're, not familiar with Right Side, maybe you're just joining, you haven't spent time with us here before, welcome. We're so glad to have you. To tell you a little bit about ourselves, we actually travel to President Trump's rallies all around the country, and we show you the crowds, and we really get in the middle of the crowd and just interview people no matter what the weather, whether it's, hot or rain or snow, whatever the weather is, it doesn't matter. We show you guys the crowds, and it is such a blessing and so much fun to be able to go. And so, like you can imagine, these rallies are very expensive, and we're not able to go without your donations. And here at Right Side, we are 100% donor funded. And so that means that, we survive on your donations, as you know. And there are 4 different ways you can donate in case you haven't before, in case you might be wondering, you really think Right Side's a great thing, you really want to be a part of it and jump on board. I'm going to tell you the different ways real quick. So one way is that you can actually donate right here on the super chat on YouTube. You just hit that $sign and you can donate and your name will come up, and you can type a fun message and it'll be in a bright color, and I'll say it to the whole world as long as it's appropriate, of course. And you can also donate from our website, and there are actually 3 different ways available on our website. Well, 2 ways, and then the website tells you the 3rd way. But I'm going to switch it over real quick and show you guys how, just for those of you who are not familiar. And speaking of donations, we just got $14.99 from Rick Moore. Thank you very much for that, who said, "I'm so sorry, young people." Thank you so much, Rick. Really appreciate that. And it's so good having you here again in the chat tonight. And you were here yesterday as well, a loyal viewer and supporter. Thank you very much for that. And yes, I love your comments, the British Patriot. YouTube is scared of RSBN's reach and Alyssa's beauty. Thank you for that. So I'm going to show you guys that may not know real quick the different ways that you can donate from our website. So at the very top of our website, there is this red bar, and you just hit that fourth tab over that says donate, and it takes you directly to the different ways to donate. So one of them is PayPal, and we actually do get to keep about 90% of PayPal donations, so more than YouTube. On YouTube, we just get to keep about 70%, and they keep the other 30%. So anyways, if you are donating through PayPal or with a credit card, you can just hit this link, and all you do is enter the amount and then decide if you're donating with PayPal or with a debit or credit card, and it'll take you directly to where you enter all of your information. And if you want to become a monthly donator, you know, maybe you feel a little bit more committed and you think Right Side is something that you want to continually support, you can actually become a patron and donate monthly. And it is patreon.com, Patreon, Patreon with an E.com/RSBN. And so you can see right here, you just click become a patron, and it'll take you through, and you can click which level you want to become. So entry level all the way through all access. And of course, you can do a custom pledge and just donate without selecting a reward. Okay, I was checking and making sure we're good over here on YouTube, and we still are, thankfully. So anyways, Patreon is really fun because you're able to receive fun little items, just RSBN swag items such as hats, pens, pencils, mugs, stickers, t-shirts, just different things to remember us throughout the day, and so that you'll remember to watch us, and of course spread the word with your friends as well, just about who we are and, you know, what we do. And so that's how you donate on Patreon. And also you can donate, there's one more way I'll show you guys. If you're not comfortable donating online, we completely understand and respect that, and you can donate by sending a check directly to us. So our address, this is our P.O. Box. It is 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama 36830. And you just write the check out to RSBN and write RSBN on you know, the front of the envelope as well, or Right Side Broadcasting Network, whether you want to abbreviate or not, that's up to you. But it is a great way to donate, and it's so encouraging just seeing those donations come in, and a lot of you guys attach your letters as well, just heartwarming letters, and you tell us what we really mean to you and what else you'd like to see from us that you may not have seen before. So that is a fun way to donate. And speaking of donations, we just got $3.99 from Last Cigarette. Thank you very much for that. Really, really appreciate you. So I'm going to switch back over real quick. So I was telling you guys Senator Ron Johnson's response to President Trump promising $12 billion to farmers. So in April, President Trump actually directed Purdue to devise a plan to mitigate any financial damage to U.S. agricultural producers' bottom lines that could result from ongoing trade battles. And until now, the administration has offered few details on the amount of aid that would be provided and how it would actually be distributed. So as recently as last month, Perdue said it was premature to determine whether his agency needed to provide farmers with subsidies to offset trade losses because it was just too soon to gauge the effects of retaliatory tariffs on farmers. And farmers and the majority of farm state lawmakers have previously appeared to be lukewarm on the idea of the government doling out aid to offset losses due to tariffs and drops in the trade market. And while I'm going through this, I also really want to know, what do you guys think about President Trump promising such a huge, amount of aid to farmers? I know many of you are, Republicans and you're for farmers and just the agricultural industry, but please comment and tell me your thoughts on this. And Miles Connor just donated $2. Thank you for that. And he said, can I get a t-shirt autographed with a pic? If you donate on Patreon, you can receive that. And just go through on Patreon, check out the different levels and see which one most fits that description that you just sent me. And you can also wait and enter our contest during our next rally in Tampa. It's going to be so much fun. And I think we'll be doing it the same way, and we will let you guys know the day of. But, okay, we had a black screen, but we're back. So I think we'll be doing it the same way, but we will let you guys know the day of, where each $25 you donate counts as a contest entry. And then at the end of the night, we just do it the old-fashioned way. We just put all of your names in a bowl and pick one. And then you can get fun things like t-shirts as well, like you mentioned, Miles. So thank you for that. So anyways, farmers and the majority of farm state lawmakers have previously appeared to be lukewarm on the government doling out aid to offset losses due to tariffs and drops in the market. And many have actually told Politico that they would prefer the Trump administration to expand access to foreign markets rather than start spats with trading partners that lead them to erect barriers on U.S. exports, restrict access, and seek out other sources of supply. So Brian Kuhl, who is actually the executive director of the advocacy group Farmers for Free Trade, said in a statement on Tuesday, the best relief for the president's trade war would be ending the trade war. And he said that farmers need trade policies that promote stability and allow them to plan for the future. So I know that we just had a black screen on YouTube. So for those of you who missed it, I'm going to tell you that quote real quick one more time. So Brian Kuhl, he's an executive director for the advocacy group Farmers for Free Trade. He said in a statement today, the best relief for the president's trade war would be ending the trade war. And he said that farmers need trade policies that promote stability and allow them to plan for the future. And he also said this proposed action would only be a short-term attempt at masking the long-term damage caused by tariffs. So Farmers for Free Trade is actually funded by the American Farm Bureau Federation, and the nation's largest group, and other industry trade associations like the National Pork Producers Council and the National Corn Growers Association. So Senate Agricultural Chairman Pat Roberts told Politico recently that tariff retaliation could have long-term effects on access to foreign markets. And he said, I think the question in farm country that is equal to what's happening now is, what is our future down the road? How do we put these trade agreements back together? Once you lose a market, you lose it, he said. And he said, we're trying to make the point that we don't want aid, we want trade. And the USDA has already used its authority to buy up excess supply in recent months, announcing in May that it would purchase excess cheddar cheese and distribute the product to federal nutrition assistance programs. And the dairy industry has suffered in recent years as prices have been driven down by a glut of product on the market. So Senator John Hoeven, who is a North Dakota Republican who serves on the Senate Agricultural Committee, said Tuesday he believes the administration is looking to deliver aid in the short term in hopes that trade tensions will be ironed out before long. And Hoeven said he's trying to get us better trade deals. The objective is not to have a long-term relief program. The objective is to get access to the markets on a fair basis for our farmers and ranchers. And I'm also going to tell you guys about the response to that. And this is from Politico as well. So President Trump's bailout for the agricultural industry is driving his many Republican trade critics to exasperation. And going through real quick. Okay, this may have a couple of the same quotes. I just don't want to repeat too much. Okay. So pro-trade Republicans were already furious with President Trump's escalation of tariffs against U.S. allies and China, a multi-front trade war that they say is hurting U.S. farmers and manufacturers. But the administration's response Tuesday, announcing plans to send $12 billion to farmers hurt by retaliatory tariffs to ease the pain, is the opposite of conservative free trade orthodoxy, they said. And they said this is becoming more and more like a Soviet-type economy here. Commissars deciding on who's going to be granted waivers. Commissars in the administration figuring out how they're going to sprinkle around benefits. And this was from Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. And he said, "I'm very exasperated. This is serious." And then Senator John Thune of South Dakota, who is the number 3 GOP leader, said taxpayers are going to be asked to initial checks to farmers in lieu of having a trade policy that actually opens up and expands more markets. And there isn't anything about this that anybody would like. And he suggested that the new spending might need to be offset by cuts in other funding areas. So President Trump's move today highlighted what has become the largest and most painful divide between his presidency and the congressional GOP, his protectionist trade policies. And a number of senators have been itching to tie the president's hands from making unilateral tariff policy with legislation that would require Congress to approve of unilateral tariffs that are imposed with the justification of national security. So right now, the proposal does not have enough GOP support to pass the Senate, and it appears that President Trump's bailouts to farm country are intended to tamp down GOP criticism of his trade policies. But his move actually, unfortunately, had the opposite effect, enraging his harshest critics and worrying farm state senators like Thune. And like I mentioned earlier, Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska said President Trump is giving farmers golden crutches, while Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania said this bailout compounds bad policy with more bad policy. And Toomey and Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona and Bob Corker of Tennessee said their legislation to tie the president's hands on tariffs should pick up new steam now that the Trump administration is distorting the market. And Flake said, "This is what we feared all along, that these markets would be replaced by handouts. You lose some of the markets, you lose them for good or for a long time." And Corker said, "You put people in the poorhouse and provide them aid. What you need to do is not put them in the poorhouse. They put in place a policy that requires farmers to go on welfare." So after Senate Republicans actually met privately today, Corker fumed over the lack of response to the president's trade policies from the Republican Congress. And he said, "It's hard to believe that there's not an outright revolt in Congress." And the frustration was shared by House Republicans. Republican Dave Reichert of Washington, who chairs the subcommittee on trade, said that the policy might be helpful to farmers in the short term, but it does little to preserve market access lost due to tariffs. And he said some in the agricultural community say, "That's great, thank you for the help, except the problem then becomes we've lost the market. So how do we get the market back?" He said that is the question. But while Congress's free traders are miffed, President Trump's move could help with the people who made him president. And Republicans are unlikely to do anything to block the aid payments, and President Trump doesn't need Congress to go along with the payments. So his payments to farmers amount to an acknowledgement that his tariffs are hurting the economy, aiding Senate Democrats fighting for re-election in rural states where President Trump is popular. And Senator Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota touted a bill this afternoon that would make farmers hurt by tariffs eligible for trade adjustment assistance. So GOP leaders are worried the trade wars could stunt economic gains and cost them Senate and House seats. But though Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has criticized President Trump's tariffs and retaliations that targeted industries in Kentucky, he said Tuesday he would have to study President Trump's decision to bail out farmers before commenting further. And Senate Agricultural Committee Chairman Pat Roberts was unenthused with the bailout because he worries that such payments could become permanent. But he said farmers who supported President Trump are likely to welcome the aid given the dire straits in the heartland. And he said it's obvious in farm country there's a lot of concern, and those were the folks that brought the president home. And then Senate Finance Chairman Orrin Hatch of Utah, who is weighing action against President Trump's tariffs, said that he doesn't have a problem with the agricultural subsidies to farmers, but said they would be unnecessary if President Trump hadn't made the mistake of imposing tariffs against allies. So whether President Trump's actions on Tuesday will truly turn the tide for Republican free traders to take back some of Congress's authority likely depends on how farm state Republicans react to the president's initiative. So Republican senators such as Joni Ernst of Iowa have said they're willing to give the president some leeway, but worry about how much longer farmers can hold out. And President Trump's new payment plan could help them weather the rest of the year and get the GOP through the election. And yes, I see a great comment from one of our loyal viewers, Jameson Carpenter. Thank you very much for that. And he said, of course, tariffs will hurt initially as the market balances. The degree of the hurt is the fault of previous regimes for putting us in this unbalanced trade position. Thank you so much, Jameson. Really appreciate that. So while most in the GOP say farmers want to sell their products, not receive handouts, President Trump's most loyal supporters still say they're willing to give the president room to renegotiate NAFTA and clinch new trade deals with China before turning on his trade policy. And Senate Majority Whip John Cornyn from Texas said the economy seems to be doing well. I think the concern is the third quarter and beyond. My hope is that we'll start to see some of these issues off the table, like NAFTA. It would be good to not add more uncertainty and reduce the uncertainty by taking care of some of these trade disputes. And also, I'm going to check over on Facebook, make sure you guys don't have any comments or questions that I missed. Let's see, it looks like we have a comment from Chris Scott over on Facebook, and he said, this is supposed to be the land of milk and honey. I would think that the U.S. farmers would make more money selling their goods here, filling any shortage from tariffs. How is this not a good thing? How is selling on homeland filling the market hole left by tariffs? And he said, there's the answer. They are not worried about the country or farmers. They're worried about their seats in Congress. Thank you very much for your comment, Chris Scott. And let's see, one from Donna Renee Ivy. She said, this is cool. I do not get to hear the news all day as I'm at work. Paralegals rock. Yes, they do. Thank you so much, Donna, and thank you for joining. So glad to have you here. Okay. And heading back over to YouTube. And don't forget, you can also connect with me on Twitter. I'm going to show you guys my Twitter handle real quick. It is at Alyssa RSBN right here. You can see it on the bottom of the screen. And I would love to connect with you on Twitter. It's so much fun when you guys direct message me, especially, you know, for nights like these, when you send me story tips, stories that I may have missed throughout the day, something breaking, something big, or maybe something that even isn't as big that you may want to share with me on Twitter. I would totally love that. And then I can share it with everyone here on the broadcast. So please feel free to reach out. Do not be shy. So moving on, today House Republicans actually rolled out their election year tax cut plan. And this is from Reuters. So Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives unveiled an election year tax plan today that's unlikely to become law, but could energize party voters this autumn by promising permanent tax cuts for individuals and most business owners. So days before lawmakers head home for 5 weeks of summer campaigning before the November 6th congressional elections, the House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Kevin Brady rolled out a tax reform 2.0 proposal that would also expand savings opportunities for families and workers while expanding write-offs for startup businesses. So Brady said this is an excellent first step. So he told this to reporters after showing the plan to members of his party. And House Republicans plan 3 pieces of legislation covering permanents, savings, and businesses in hopes of reaping some success in the Senate. Other ideas, including a measure to protect capital gains on business investments from inflation, are also under discussion. So Brady actually expects his committee to vote on legislation in September, which will kind of set the stage for a House floor vote. But new tax legislation is unlikely to succeed in the Senate, where Republicans would need support from Democrats, who opposed last year's overhaul that permanently slashed corporate taxes, but provided only temporary reductions for individuals and business owners. And Democrats actually charged that the tax largely benefited wealthy Americans and corporations. And some $1.1 trillion of the cuts will expire after 2025, a factor contributing to the overhaul's unpopularity with voters, according to polling. So Representative Lloyd Doggett, who is a Democrat on Brady's committee, said don't expect the sequel to be any better than the original. More of a bad idea is still a bad idea. But Republicans hope that new legislation could appeal to voters while helping focus the congressional election campaign on buoyant economic growth rather than President Trump's trade wars, immigration policy, and federal probes into Russian election meddling. And Representative Scott Desjardins said, voters like tax cuts. I don't know of too many people who say, raise my taxes. It's what the people want. They want to keep their money. But some Republicans are concerned about adding hundreds of billions of dollars more to the federal deficit, and the new plan offers no way to pay for an extension of the cuts. So additionally, the proposal would create fully flexible universal savings account for families, allow education savings to be spent on apprentice fees, and give new parents penalty-free access to retirement accounts for child expenses. And it also calls for allowing startup companies to write off more of their initial costs as a way to foster innovation and productivity. And while the Senate action is unlikely before the November elections, the Senate could use a House measure during the post-election lame duck session as a vehicle for bipartisan legislation to address provisions of the 2017 overhaul that have had unintended effects, including higher than expected tax bills for some corporations. So that is very interesting, and we will just have to stay tuned to see if it gets passed. So also, this is really interesting. Just a couple days after his heated tweets against Iran, President Trump said that he is ready to make a real deal on Iran's nuclear program. So in case some of you missed it, I want to show you guys those tweets. And wow, it looks like he has tweeted a lot just since then, so we'll have to catch up on those at some point tonight too. Okay, well, here is the tweet that was all over the news yesterday. The president said to Iranian President Rouhani, "Never ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious." And this was, of course, in response to some very controversial remarks by President Rouhani. He didn't just say this just to say it. It was a response. But I'm going to leave this up for a second and go through with you guys how now he's actually ready to make a real deal, as he says, on Iran's nuclear program. And this is from Reuters as well. So today, he kept open the possibility of negotiating an agreement to denuclearize Iran 2 days after he rattled his saber at the nation on Twitter. And this was actually today. Many of you got to see his fantastic speech at the Veterans of Foreign Wars conference. Many of you got to watch that we streamed earlier. So he said, we'll see what happens, but we're ready to make a real deal, not the deal that was done by the previous administration, which was a disaster. And Iran on Monday dismissed President Trump's angry warning that Tehran risked dire consequences, the like of which few throughout history have ever suffered before, if it made threats against the United States. So President Trump's Defense Secretary, Jim Mattis, declined to directly answer a question about whether he was concerned that the president's rhetoric might ratchet up tensions in the region, increasing the chances of miscalculation. But Mattis, speaking at a news conference in California, listed his many concerns about Iranian actions in the Middle East, including Tehran's support for President Bashar al-Assad in Syria's civil war and for Houthi militants fighting the internationally recognized government in Yemen. And Mattis, who is a retired Marine general, said it's time for Iran to shape up and show responsibility as a responsible nation. It cannot continue to show irresponsibility as a revolutionary organization that is intent on exporting terrorism, exporting disruption across the region. And then he said, so I think the president was making very clear that they're on the wrong track. And I would love to see your comments as well. What do you think about the president possibly making a real deal with Iran? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think that it would be positive for both nations? Or do you kind of think that we should just stay away? Would love to see your thoughts on here. And I'm going to check Twitter and Facebook as well. Okay, some great comments there on Facebook. Thank you so much, Becky Jewett Miller and Kenneth Honkamp and Jim Mogard. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. And Linda Belk. Kind of answering my question, Linda Belk said any real deal with Iran would have to include getting rid of the murderer who is running Iran right now. Thank you very much for your comment, Linda. Okay, and it looks like we're good on YouTube. We were black screened again for a second there, but now we're back. Perfect. Okay, also kind of just expanding on what I talked about earlier with President Trump promising those farmers $12 billion in aid. And so this is from Reuters as well. That his move to help U.S. farmers shows his commitment to tariffs. So the Trump administration on Tuesday said it would pay up to $12 billion to help U.S. farmers weather a growing trade battle with China, the EU, and others, a clear signal that the president is determined to stick with tariffs as his weapon of choice in the conflict. And so I know I talked to you guys a little bit about this before, but I just want to really dig in since I found some more information. So the move to cushion the blow for politically important constituency, rural and agricultural states that supported U.S. President Trump by wide margins in the election, but have been targeted by China's retaliation to his trade tactics, was met with broad criticism by many farmers and Farm Belt lawyers. So President Trump's trade policies have become central in several rural state U.S. Senate races ahead of congressional elections in November, as Democrats, of course, try to keep hold of several seats that Republicans have targeted. So the president, when he spoke at an event in Kansas City Tuesday, aggressively reaffirmed his support for tariffs and pledged that ultimately farmers will be the biggest beneficiary. And he said, just be a little patient. And to that end, the relief package is intended to serve as only a temporary boost to farmers as the U.S. and China negotiate over trade issues. And the aid will be financed through the USDA's Commodity Credit Corporation and thus will not require congressional approval. So the CCC has broad authority to make loans and direct payments to U.S. growers when prices for corn, soybeans, wheat, and other agricultural goods are low, and the administration's action appeared to divide Republicans. So Kevin Cramer, who is a U.S. representative trying to unseat Democrat Senator Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota, praised the move. And he said, great to see President Trump providing aid to farmers impacted by retaliatory tariffs. But other Republicans were troubled by what they view as the kind of widespread government assistance program their party has traditionally opposed. And then again, it goes on, and I'm not going to repeat it because I already told you guys just that comment by Senator Ben Sasse about the gold crutches. And then Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul wrote on Twitter, tariffs are taxes that punish American consumers and producers. If tariffs punish farmers, the answer is not welfare for farmers. The answer is remove the tariffs. And a new one that we have not heard before, Democratic Representative Jackie Speer of California, which is a major, as you know, agricultural state. On Twitter, she accused President Trump of trying to placate the farmers that voted for you with a $12 billion payment. And later this week, President Trump will also visit Iowa and Illinois, two other Farm Belt states, as he seeks to shore up support for Republican candidates in those regions. And many wonder if this is a short-term boost. So farmers have been a particular target in the current clash over trade policy as other countries seek to retaliate President Trump's duties on Chinese goods, as well as on steel and aluminum imports from the EU, Canada, and Mexico. And side note, I wanted to wait until you could see me again because we just had another black screen. But Not Sure just donated $49.99. Thank you so much, Not Sure. Really appreciate that. Our largest donation of the night so far. Thank you for your support. That is going to be super helpful getting us to Tampa, Florida for the rally at the beginning of next week. It is just a week away and we're so excited to go. Thank you so very much. Really, really appreciate you. And, you know, we're not able to do this without you at all. And Dan the Plumber said he just donated $100. Thank you, Black Screen. Maybe that was on PayPal. Have to check on that after the broadcast. And if you did, thank you very much, Dan. So last year, the U.S. exported $138 billion in agricultural products in 2017, including $21.5 billion of soybeans, the most valuable export. And China alone imported $12.3 billion of U.S. soybeans last year, according to the USDA. And the size of the direct payments to farmers as a result of trade shortfalls would be unprecedented, said Scott Irwin, an agricultural economist at the University of Illinois. And he said, "We have never compensated farmers directly on such a large scale for retaliatory tariffs." And the news lifted shares of farm equipment companies on the prospect that farmers will have more money to spend on tractors and other farm gear. And Deere & Co. jumped 3.1%, while Caterpillar Inc. gained more than 1%, and AGC Co. Corp. rose 0.6%. And soybean futures were hit hard by China's retaliatory tariffs. They rose 1.2% and hit their highest in 2 weeks, as traders bet farm aid would improve demand, reducing a current surplus supply. And still, Blake Hurst, who is a corn and soybean farmer and president on the Missouri Farm Bureau, said that unless the White House's policies change, the U.S. agricultural industry will continue to suffer. And he said the payments will be helpful to farmers facing overdue loans and angry bankers, but are completely insufficient if they mean that tariffs and trade war will last for the foreseeable future. And he said they are a very temporary bandage to a self-inflicted wound. Also, checking over on Twitter real quick, I asked you guys what your opinion would be, whether it was a good idea or not for the president to make a real deal, as he said, with Iran. And Malik said, "I think that any nuclear deal with Iran is a bad idea." General Mattis hit on the point relating to responsibility. Great power requires great responsibility. Iran has shown and proven they cannot be trusted with that great power and responsibility. Thank you so much, Malik, for commenting. And Jameson, not sure if this is the same as Jameson Carpenter over on YouTube. Commented asking for my email, so I just gave it to you. If you have any questions or story tips that you would like to send to me, you can share them through email as well. And Champion of Virtue commented and said, "Hope you people know that this tariff war means nothing because Israel is giving our military technology to China. When will Israel be called out? I hope a military coup happens soon." Thank you so much for that, Champion. And the British Patriot, I love your comment. He said the U.S. needs to stop producing soybeans and start producing more bacon. Bacon is great. Thank you, the British Patriot, for commenting that. And our fantastic moderators in the chat room are commenting the different links where you can donate. Thank you so much for that, Guinevere and Real Frank in Florida. Really appreciate you guys. And let's see if there are any other moderators in here. Right now, I'm just seeing Guinevere and Real Frank in Florida. Thank you so much for being here and for keeping our chat room clean. And wow, we just got another $10 donation from Trump's Sword. Thank you very much for that. Who said, thanks, RSBN MAGA. Thank you, Trump's Sword. Really appreciate you. What a fun name. And also thank you if you're watching to our website moderators, Common Sense and Glenn O. Really appreciate you guys and all the hard work that you do on our website to keep the chat clean there as well. So moving on from earlier today, I have something for you guys from Fox News. Nikki Haley actually pressured Arab states to step up on Palestinian aid, and she said, "We are not fools." So haven't reported on her in a while. So today, U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, challenged Arab countries who spout anti-Israel rhetoric to step up to the plate with financial support for Palestinians, warning that while the U.S. is generous, we are not fools. So after meeting, or at a meeting, of the UN Security Council, Haley noted that there's no end to speeches from Arab states criticizing Israel's actions in the region and the impact they're allegedly having on Palestinian population. So she said if those words were useful in the schools, the hospitals, and the streets of their communities, the Palestinian people would be facing the desperate conditions we're discussing here today. But talk is cheap. She said, if we extend a hand in friendship and generosity, we do not expect our hand to be bitten. And she noted that the U.S. provides $364 million to UN agency for Palestinian refugees, the UNRWA, and another $300 million in bilateral assistance last year, numbers that dwarf the contributions from any other countries. And she said since 1993, the United States has provided over $6 billion in bilateral assistance to the Palestinians. How much have Arab countries, some of whom are wealthy, how much have they given to the Palestinians? It does not come anywhere close to what the U.S. has done. And the U.S. withheld approximately $65 million in funding for UNRWA in January. And the State Department said that at the time the money was frozen and that the U.S. wanted to see revisions in how UNRWA operates. So on Tuesday, Haley hinted that more cuts could follow, and she urged other countries to step up. She said, Americans are very generous people. We are humanitarian oriented, and we continue to seek out ways to help the Palestinian people whose plight is of genuine concern to us. But we are not fools. If we extend a hand in friendship and generosity, we do not expect our hand to be bitten. And as we extend our hand, we also expect others to extend theirs as well. She also mentioned it wasn't all about money. She said, where are the Arab countries when it comes to encouraging reconciliation between Palestinian factions, which is essential to peace. Where are the Arab countries when it comes to denouncing Hamas terrorism? Where are the Arab countries when it comes to supporting compromises that are necessary for peace? And she's been leading the charge against what the Trump administration sees as an anti-Israel bias at the UN last month. And she cited the Human Rights Council's anti-Israel bias as one of the reasons for the U.S. pulling out of the controversial body. So, Palestinian Representative Riyad Mansour, in a lengthy speech on the Security Council floor, lamented the conditions in the Gaza Strip and blasted Israel. He said, in the occupied, besieged Gaza Strip, the Palestinian people continue to endure an ever-worsening humanitarian crisis and a rapid decline in the socioeconomic situation as a devastating effect of Israel's ongoing occupation, illegal and inhumane blockage, and repeated military aggressions. And Israeli Ambassador Danny Danon, however, reversed his ire for the international community, which he said refused to condemn Hamas while constantly attacking Israel for defending itself. And he said, enough is enough. Too many in the international community criticize our actions while Hamas terrorizes our sovereign borders. And Danon went on accusing Hamas of holding Gaza hostage and terrorizing both Israelis and Palestinians. And he said it is time for this body of knowledge that Hamas is no different from Al-Qaeda and ISIS. But the UN's focus seems unlikely to shift from Israel anytime soon. As the Security Council meeting was underway, the UN's Economic and Social Council was debating an anti-Israel resolution that condemned the economic and social repercussions of the Israeli occupation. And that resolution actually adopted a report on the living conditions drafted by the Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, an organization that said last year that Israel was an apartheid state. And on Tuesday, in discussing the report as part of the resolution, the Palestinian representative also used the apartheid term and described Israel as a colonial regime. So the resolution introduced by Egypt praises the Palestinian government for trying to improve the economic and social situation in what is described as occupied territory, despite the obstacles imposed by ongoing Israeli occupation. And meanwhile, it accuses occupying power, Israel, of human rights abuses and more. So Israel's representative said Israel was deeply disappointed but not surprised by the report and noted there was no section discussing Hamas. She called the report little more than an extensive 22-page propaganda piece, and the U.S. blasted the report as biased and one-sided. So while the resolution passed comfortably, an amendment from Israel calling for Hamas to release soldiers and civilians held in Gaza was rejected by the Council, with only 5 members, including the U.S., voting in support. So the U.S. has long expressed concern over anti-Israel bias at the UN, but Haley has threatened funding cuts for those who vote against U.S. interests, including on Israel. And at a speech at an event for Christians United for Israel in Washington, D.C., Monday night, Haley hinted at foreign aid cuts for countries that consistently vote against the U.S., something that Trump and Haley have floated before. And she said UN votes should not be the only factor in foreign aid decisions. We have many interests that go beyond the UN, but they should be one factor, and we're determined to make that connection. So that was definitely a very interesting story, and great that she is taking a stand there. And it looks like I got a couple messages on Twitter, so I'm gonna switch over there and check real quick. Okay, another great message from Malik Gregerson. He said also on tariffs, once countries realize the high tariffs that the USA is paying by the USA raising the tariffs to match what they're paying, I think they'll renegotiate fair and reciprocal trade deals. If they lower their tariffs, then I'm sure the USA will lower our tariffs. Thanks again for reporting the news, Alyssa and RSBN. Of course, thank you so much, Malik. Really appreciate you. And just all of your responses and comments. And like I said, I'll throw this up for you guys real quick. Here's my Twitter handle, at AlyssaRSBN. And so if you have, comments about any of these stories that you would like to share that maybe I have missed from the YouTube or Facebook chat, or maybe you just have a question for me, or, maybe also you have a story tip, a story that I may have missed throughout the day, please share it to my Twitter right here. You just DM me at AlyssaRSBN, and it's really a simple and super great way for me to interact with you guys. I love interacting with you. You guys are the heartbeat of what we do here at RSBN, and we're not able to do what we do and to be on the air without you guys. And speaking of that, for those of you that are new, for those of you that may be just joining, I want to give you a little bit of background about RSBN for those of you that just may not know who we are and, what exactly we do. So we are a conservative online news network, but we still aim to bring you the news in a fair and balanced way, checking multiple sources before sharing stuff with you guys. And we travel actually to President Trump's rallies all around America. He never stops. He's constantly on the go, getting on and off of Air Force One. And anyway, so he travels to these rallies, and we go to the rallies and we actually show the crowds, which is something that Right Side has become famous for, just showing the entire crowds. And we did help the president get elected just by helping him, increase his audience and just showing people who were not able to go to the rallies just the immense size of these crowds. So anyways, we get in the middle of the crowd, we interview people, make a lot of friends, see really loyal, diehard conservatives, diehard supporters decked out in MAGA hats and shirts, some people even wearing American flags. It's so much fun just to watch and to see. But anyways, as you can imagine, going to these rallies is very expensive. It's at least $5,000 minimum for each one, and it goes up depending on how many crew members we are sending. And this time we are sending a full crew, 5 people, to go to this rally, 4 reporters and 1 cameraman, and of course we'll be helping him as much as we can as well to give him a little break. But anyways, so, the more people we send, the farther it is, the least amount of notice we have, which it's always a short amount of notice. Thankfully, this time we have a week's notice, which is helpful. But anyways, very expensive. So there are different ways which you can help us go to these rallies, and so that you're able to see those streams and broadcasts like this, my nightly news recaps and White House press briefings, Trump speeches, all different things that we want to show you guys. We do, need your donations to be able to do this. So one simple way you can do it, you can just click the $sign right here on the YouTube chat, on the super chat, and you can donate. You just write, your name will come up if you're logged in, And you can type a fun message, which I'll share with the entire world as long as it's appropriate, and it'll come up in a bright color. And so that is a lot of fun. And also you can donate on our website, and there's a couple different ways there that you can donate, and I'm going to pull that up for you guys. Switching over. So here is our beautiful website. And right here on this top red bar, you see donate as the fourth tab over. You just click on that. And there are two different ways right here. And the fourth way that I'm going to show you guys, the fourth way overall in a second. So one way is donating by PayPal or credit card. And so you just click that link, enter the amount, and then you can go through whether you are donating with PayPal or a debit or credit card. And also, you know, maybe you feel a little more invested at RSBN. You really, you know, like what you're seeing here. You want to see more of it. So you just click right here and you're able to give a monthly donation. It'll take you to Patreon's website. And that is Patreon with an O, patreon.com/RSBN if you're getting to it separately from the website link. And you can see on Patreon, you can become a patron, a monthly donator, a monthly, you know, supporter of us. And you can see the different levels here going all the way from the entry level all the way up to the all access level, which is when you are giving $500 or more a month. You appear monthly on an RSBN show. You get a personalized thank you video from the team, and your name appears in the credits of RSBN shows as a sponsor. And of course, on that white ticker you see going across the bottom. But maybe if you're not comfortable donating online, we completely understand and respect that. So you can also donate by sending a check to our P.O. Box here in Auburn. So you just write the check out to RSBN, and then it's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama 36830. So you can just write that check out today and, you know, mail it tomorrow. And just, that's how you do it. And it's so heartwarming to receive the checks from you guys, because most of the time you'll include handwritten letters as well, which are such a blessing to read. And you know, you guys tell us maybe some more different things you want to see out of RSBN and things you're thankful for so far. And so yeah, those are the different ways you can donate. And of course, you can see right here on our website. Thank you all for your support. We really appreciate you guys, and we are not able to survive and to be on the air and do this without you guys. So thankful for you. And switching back over. So I have a couple kind of weather related stories for you guys, which I don't do too much, so I thought it'd be a fun way to shake things up. So this is actually from Reuters as well. So California's power grid is actually urging consumers to conserve energy in a heat wave. So yeah, this is actually from yesterday. California's power grid operator sent out an alert to businesses and homes to save electricity on Tuesday and Wednesday when a heat wave was expected to blanket the state. So the California Independent System Operator, the grid operator, said it issued the so-called flex alert due to high temperatures across the western United States, reducing electricity imports into the state and tightening natural gas supplies in Southern California and high wildfire risk. So the ISO's alert followed an earlier notice by Southern California Gas Company, the gas utility for the southern part of the state. So SoCalGas issued a gas curtailment watch on Monday, notifying customers to be prepared to reduce gas if needed, with power generators expected to burn more fuel this week than to keep air conditioners humming. SoCalGas, which is actually a unit of California energy company Sempra Energy, said the watch would remain in effect until further notice. So high temperatures in LA were forecast to top 90 degrees throughout the whole week, with the mercury expected to reach 97 degrees on Wednesday, according to AccuWeather. So the normal high in the city at this time of year is 84 degrees. And the ISO said consumers can help avoid power interruptions by turning off all unnecessary lights, using major appliances before 5 p.m. and after 9 p.m., and setting air conditioners to 78 degrees or higher. And gas supplies are expected to remain tight in Southern California this summer and winter due to reduced availability from SoCalGas's Aliso Canyon storage facility in Los Angeles, following a massive leak between October 2015 and February 2016 and ongoing shutdowns of several pipelines. So SoCalGas projected that the gas demand would rise from 3 billion cubic feet per day on Monday to 3.1 billion cubic feet on Tuesday and 3.2 billion cubic feet Wednesday and Thursday, while receipts of the fuel via pipelines into California would only total about 2.6 billion cubic feet per day. So this means that SoCalGas will have to tap storage fields to make up the difference, which could hurt the utility's ability to stockpile enough fuel to avoid curtailments for some power and industrial customers on the coldest days during the winter heating season. I see your comment right here on YouTube from Subliminal. Do I read chat? Yes, I do. So if you have any questions or comments or stories that you want me to share, feel free to read them, to type them out right here, and I will share them with the whole world. Really appreciate your question. So state and federal agencies have actually projected that SoCalGas will only be able to deliver about 3.6 billion cubic feet per day from its non-Aliso storage fields due to the Aliso limitations and pipeline outages, which have only occurred once in the summer in the past 5 years, but is more common in the winter. And I'm checking Facebook as well just to make sure you guys don't have any comments that you want me to share. Michael Large said they should demand unlimited free power. And Chris OK said, I am in this industry, but in Texas, we have a super surplus of NG and liquid gas of all kind. This is a shady scam to get the prices up. I'm 100% on the fact. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. And thank you so much, Katie. One of my best friends from home is in the chat. Really appreciate you. And also, I wanted to share with you guys In case you missed it, it actually happened this morning. There was a series of earthquakes off southern Oregon's coast, including a 5.6. So I'm going to switch over real quick and show you guys a map of where it happened. And this is from OregonLive.com. So you can see the map right here just off of Oregon's southern coast where the earthquakes happened. So there were actually 11 earthquakes this morning, ranging from a 2.8 to 5.6 magnitudes, and this was according to the U.S. Geological Survey. So the quakes on average were clustered about 126 miles west of Crescent City, California, and no tsunami warnings were announced. Don Blakeman, who is a geophysicist at the National Earthquake Information Center, said the magnitudes haven't yet been serious, adding that the quakes of this caliber could occur fairly often off the coast. So the 5.6, which happened at 7:44 a.m., qualifies as a moderate earthquake. The impacts would be more significant than if it had occurred on land rather than 10 kilometers under the sea, Blakeman said. And smaller earthquakes and aftershocks will likely continue in the area through the morning. And he said this, and adding that he does not anticipate a larger magnitude that will come along and trump the 5.6. So tsunami concerns don't usually come into play until at least a magnitude 7 is recorded, he said. And the earthquakes happened on the Juan de Fuca tectonic plate, which will likely be the source of a massive earthquake in the Portland and Seattle area in the future, but Blakeman said rumblings Tuesday morning were nothing to worry about. And I'm so sorry for those on YouTube that just experienced yet another frustrating black screen. So I'm going to go through this again a little bit. You missed kind of the mid chunk of what happened, and so I'm going to share that with you again. Sorry to everyone else on Facebook and Twitter. Stay tuned. Of course, there is new information coming right after this. So Don Blakeman, who's a geophysicist at the National Earthquake Information Center, said that the magnitudes haven't yet been serious, and adding that quakes of this caliber occur fairly often off the coast. Now, despite all this, the 5.6, which happened at 7:44 a.m., qualifies as a moderate earthquake, and the impacts would be more significant if it had occurred on land rather than 10 kilometers under the sea. So smaller earthquakes and aftershocks will likely continue in the area through the morning, he said, adding that he does not anticipate a larger magnitude will come along and trump the 5.6. And sorry, I'm pausing everyone on Facebook and Twitter. We have another black screen on YouTube. But I will keep going anyways because I don't want this to inconvenience and frustrate you guys. So smaller earthquakes and aftershocks will likely continue in the area through the morning, he said, but he does not anticipate a larger magnitude will come along and trump the 5.6. And he said tsunami concerns don't usually come into play until at least a magnitude 7 is recorded. And the earthquakes happened on the Juan de Fuca tectonic plate, which will likely be the source of a massive earthquake in Portland and Seattle in the near future. But Blankman said the rumblings Tuesday morning were nothing to worry about. And I am typing a message real quick to our YouTube viewers to watch us on our other social media channels. Okay, and it looks like we're back, but I also did comment right there for you guys. This is a YouTube issue, but our social streams are fine. Please tune in on Facebook or Twitter if that happens again, which it is likely to, because it keeps happening, and I apologize to you guys on YouTube watching. It is very annoying and very frustrating. Okay, so moving on, let me switch back over real quick. So I also have a story for you guys about ICE from the dailymail.co.uk. And it was published today, and it is that ICE more than tripled its U.S. workplace investigations in 2018 and made more than 5 times the immigration arrests compared to 2017. So the U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency, or ICE, more than tripled the number of worksite investigations it conducted so far in 2018, according to new federal data. And since October 1st, 2017, the beginning of the fiscal year 2018, ICE has opened investigations into 6,093 workplaces compared to 1,716 in the fiscal year of 2017. And the agency also made 984 administrative arrests as of July 20th this year, nearly 6 times the 172 officials made the year prior. So administrative arrests are when someone is accused of being in the country illegally, but they have not been charged with any other crimes. So ICE officials have also increased the number of criminal arrests it made, taking in 675 immigrants compared to 139 in all of 2017. And immigrant advocates said that they were not surprised by the numbers, but that the intensified efforts ultimately represented the Trump administration's effort to target low-hanging fruit. And Stephen Yale Lower, who is a White Plains-based attorney and professor of immigration law at Cornell University, said, "I question whether this takes away resources that really go after criminal gangs and other serious criminal aliens." And he said the administration is trying to instill fear among undocumented immigrants. And also, I just got a text from Joe for our Twitter users, encouraging everyone to tweet and complain to @TeamYouTube about the black screens and how they need to stop it. So go ahead and try that if you don't mind. You can tag us in that as well at RSBN and at Team YouTube. So going back to the ICE article, immigration opponents meanwhile viewed the crackdown as a victory that signals an end to a period when immigrants could live and work illegally in the U.S. without facing any consequences. And Mark Kirkorian, who is an executive director of the Center for Immigration Studies, said, "This is good news. From a policy sense, you need to deter illegal hiring as much as possible because jobs are what people come here for. If it's harder to get a job, they're more likely to go home." And the crackdowns were part of a larger effort to audit companies in order to create a culture of compliance among employers. So earlier this month, a U.S. District Court judge actually issued a preliminary injunction related to a California law that prevented private employers from voluntarily cooperating with federal immigration officials during workplace investigations. So the U.S. Department of Justice had filed a preemptive lawsuit in March of this year to stop California from interfering with federal immigration authorities, and ultimately the court found the law discriminated against California employers who wanted to cooperate with ICE. So the companies that ICE has targeted have been primarily staffing companies and restaurants, said Alan Orr Jr., a Washington, D.C. based attorney and second vice president for the American Immigration Lawyers Association. And he said, "This is just another political ploy by the administration following up on its zero tolerance policy at a time when they should be using their resources to reunite these families that were separated on the border." And socioeconomically, this type of enforcement will affect low-wage workers, minimum wage workers, and their families. So if you guys have any comments or questions about that you would like to share with me, please message me on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN. I'm going to show my Twitter handle real quick for you guys at the bottom of the screen. It's at Alyssa RSBN. Super easy to remember. I would love to connect and interact with you guys. It is the heartbeat of what I do. So I think I have one message right now that I'm going to check real quick. This is another thought from Malik. He said, also President Trump stated a few times other countries need the USA more than the USA needs them, which is true. We are self-sufficient and can be for a very long time. Thank you so much for sharing that, Malik. And kind of moving on, I know for many of you, she's a favorite, and some interesting news just came out today from the president's daughter, Ivanka Trump, that she is actually shutting down her fashion brand. And this is from Politico. So she is President Trump's oldest daughter, and she's shutting down her namesake fashion brand 17 months after joining the White House as a senior advisor. So the brand's 18 employees were informed Tuesday that they were being released shortly before she released a statement saying that she plans to focus her attention on her work in Washington, D.C. And she said, when we first started this brand, no one could have predicted the success that we would achieve. After 17 months in Washington, I do not know when or if I will return to the business, but I do know that my focus for the foreseeable future will be on the work I'm doing here in Washington. So making this decision now is the only fair outcome for my team and for my partners. So her fashion line has really had strong sales since its founding in 2014, according to the brand president, Abigail Clem, but it had been dogged by boycotts since her father took office. So after the brand was pulled from Nordstrom stores shortly after his inauguration, he lashed out at the company over Twitter. And he said, my daughter Ivanka has been treated so unfairly by at Nordstrom. She is a great person, always pushing me to do the right thing. Terrible. And he tweeted this in February of 2017. So the counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, also came under fire after she urged the public to buy Ivanka Trump's items during her time on Fox and Friends early in 2017. And some Ivanka Trump items had also been dropped by stores such as Hudson Bay and Neiman Marcus. And so while we are talking about the Trumps, I wanted to show you guys a couple videos that he posted on Twitter, and then we need to go through some of his tweets. I always love going through his tweets with you guys, just showing them to you and reading them to you because he is, very expressive in them. But I wanted to show you guys just some recaps that he actually posted on Twitter, some videos of his speech at the Veterans of Foreign Wars conference held today that we streamed for you earlier. And it was in Kansas City, Missouri. So first, I'll show you guys just a little piece of his speech and then the recap of the whole event.
I want to thank the VFW for your devotion to our fallen heroes, unknown soldiers, prisoners of war, and those missing in action and their families. No one better understands the horrors of war than the people in this room. It is the warrior who bears the scars of battle and who prays most fervently for peace. That is why we remember George Washington's advice that the best way to preserve the peace is to be prepared for war. And that is exactly what we do all the time. My thinking is always on military and military strength. That is why I'm proud to report that we are now undertaking the greatest rebuilding of our United States military in its history. We have secured $700 billion for defense this year and $716 billion next year, approved.
So you could hear just a very encouraging message from him there. And I'm also going to show you guys a recap of the whole trip.
Make freedom. I'm honored to be here today in Kansas City, Missouri, to pay tribute to the men and women who make freedom possible. There's no greater force for peace and justice than the United States military. We will never forget what you did for us, ever. Together we will keep on fighting and we will keep on winning. As one people, one family, and one nation under God, we will never give in, we will never give up, and we will never stop fighting for our country, our flag, and our freedom. We don't apologize for America anymore. We stand up for America. We stand up for the patriots who defend America. And we stand up for our national anthem.
So I absolutely love that. You could just see there were just thousands of people gathered and so many veterans. And, you know, he was just saying that the greatest force of peace and justice is the American military. And so that was just such an encouraging little voiceover there that we got to see. And also, I'm going to go through some of his tweets with you guys, some recent tweets that I have not talked about yet. This is a good one as he invites different world leaders to Washington to discuss some of these trade deals. He tweeted this morning at 4:09 a.m. So just more proof that he doesn't sleep. He said countries that have treated us unfairly on trade for years are all coming to Washington to negotiate. This should have taken place many years ago, but as the saying goes, better late than never. And he also said, tariffs are the greatest. Either a country which has treated the United States unfairly on trade negotiates a fair deal or gets hit with tariffs. It's as simple as that, and everybody's talking. Remember, we are the piggy bank that's being robbed. All will be great.